Hello, everyone. Sorry to be so quiet. I was trying to close some windows that were open that were sort of difficulting the speed of my laptop. Good morning. I can see Visania, Jocelyn, Cristobal, and Grace right here.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Hello. Morning. And I posted a question, and since I didn't get the answer, I was going to ask the question to you now. I mean, to the first one to arrive to the session. Camila, Cristobal, Grace, Jocelyn, Visania, are you delivering a report on Shakespearean play today?
Not me.
Yes, Cristobal, Mariana,
Yes.
and I.
Okay. Okay, Cristobal, Mariana, and I.
Grace.
Grace. Okay. All right. So I'm going to call the rest of the people here, the rest of your classmates, because I don't see Carla here, Daniel, Fernanda, Gabriel Gomez already told me that he was not part of this session. Anyone that you remember should be here? No? Okay. So I'm going to disappear momentarily. I would like you to take over the session, the ones who are delivering the report on the Shakespearean play. Hopefully, the rest will arrive at any moment. The good thing is that when they enter the room, they are not disrupting the concentration of the presenters. That's one thing that's positive about having virtual classes, right? So whenever you want, you start with your report on that Shakespearean play, which could be Hamlet or King Lear, which is the one that's going to be today.
Hamlet.
Okay. All right. Take it away. Sorry if I was not clear. So whenever you want, you can start with your report, all right?
Professor, do you hear me?
Professor, uh, we cannot, dice no se puede solicitar control de la pantalla.
Huh. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay, try now and see, because I changed the setting in a section that says ¿quién puede presentar? Everyone. Okay, so try again, please. Can you share now your screen, or
Ahora se ve.
it's getting, yes. Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
All right, good luck.
So now, can you see?
It says loading. I can see it now.
Okay. So today we're going to present about Hamlet. So to start with the introduction, the story of Hamlet has constantly been called as the most famous play in the world literature, and it is a classic that we all should read, like at least once, I think. Hamlet, well, the most remarkable topic of the story is the constant and the deep reflection of the human being and how life is. I'm pretty sure that most of you have heard the sentence "to be or not to be." That is the question. In this story, emotions play also a huge part in every decision the characters make, and especially in the decisions that Hamlet makes. And they are kind of portrayed during his monologues, and where all his inner thoughts kind of flourish. And as we see here in the screen, these words are all related with the with the deepest reflections of Hamlet, such as justice, corruption, death, and madness or appearance. So now, for now, I would like you to have those words in mind, and we are going to see more about it.
Well, here we have the author analysis. William Shakespeare was born on April 26th of 1564 and sadly died on May 3rd of 1616. He is the most important writer in the English language. In fact, he was an English playwright, poet, and actor. Most of the people tend to know the name of William Shakespeare because of his plays, but he started to be known for his poem. The first one was Venus and Adonis, and with this one, he started to catch the attention of the London literary. Well, he lived in the Elizabethan and Jacobean period, and it is important to mention that this was the golden age of drama because during this age, it was in which his work flourished. It is also important to know that William belongs to the literary movement of the Renaissance, and that is why his plays are connected to ideas about our ability as human beings, of course, to fully understand the human experience and how our understanding of the world was based on appearances and the struggle of putting these appearances away or apart to see what was real. It has a connection with the age of the Renaissance because during this age, people started to put the reasoning, the questioning, or the knowledge about ourselves first. They start to get rid of the religion because they didn't see a purpose, a practical purpose in it. And all of this is reflected in William Shakespeare's works. And can you change the slide, please? Well, here we have some of their books or plays. Well, since 1600, Shakespeare published the so-called dark comedies. Here we have Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Othello, in which the tragic always emerged from the realistic detail of the characters. What William Shakespeare tried to do with these books was to catch the public attention by making them identify with the characters. All of them shows characteristic of the human nature, which were connected to the age. to the age. For instance, we have Hamlet, which reflects the incapacity to act before the moral dilemma between revenge and forgiveness. We have Macbeth and the cruel temptation of power, and Othello, the gratuitous cruelty of jealousy. Change this slide.
Okay, so now we're going to see a short video about the plot, and it is a summary. Oh, sorry. Can you listen to the video?
We can see it, but we cannot listen to it.
Right. When you share the screen, you need to make sure you click on the small box that says incluir sonido del equipo. It's a small thing on the left. Top left hand.
Professor?
Yes, ma'am.
And Teams?
Yes, Teams, when you start sharing your presentation, you have to choose the window, right? And there's a section that says incluir sonido del equipo on the top left hand.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I see it.
All right. Good.
Thank you. Now can you hear?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Introduction to Hamlet, like many of Shakespeare's plays, is an immediate immersion into action, with sentinels on guard at Elsinore, fearful that they will see a ghost that has appeared before. When Horatio joins them, they discuss their belief that it is the ghost of the dead king, whose brother has recently married his widow. The first scene of Hamlet begins with the appearance of the ghost of the late King Hamlet. In the rising action, Prince Hamlet's him about the appearance, and he goes with them to see the ghost. The ghost tells him that his uncle Claudius murdered him and that Hamlet must avenge him. In the meantime, we learn that Fortinbras seeks to avenge the death of his father, who had died in battle against King Hamlet some years before. After holding court, Claudius tells Hamlet he is mourning too much. Later, Ophelia tells Polonius of a distressing encounter with Prince Hamlet. Polonius thinks Hamlet's love for Ophelia is driving him mad and decides that he must tell the king and queen of this occurrence. They scheme a chance meeting between the two. When Hamlet and Ophelia meet, Hamlet tells her that he never loved her, leaving her distraught. Claudius and Gertrude decide they need to send Hamlet to England. Hamlet then sets up a play depicting Claudius murdering his father. While watching Hamlet's play, Claudius falls into a mad frenzy. On his way to speak with his mother after the play, Hamlet finds Claudius and nearly kills him. He hesitates because he thinks Claudius is praying. During the climax, he goes to speak with his mother, and during their argument, kills Polonius, who was spying on them from behind a tapestry. Claudius, now paranoid, sends Hamlet to England with a death warrant. In the meantime, it is discovered that Ophelia has committed suicide. After being captured by pirates, Hamlet plots his way back to Denmark and has Horatio meet him there. When they get back, it's Ophelia's funeral, and Hamlet and Laertes scuffle. During the falling action, Claudius and Laertes decide to plot Hamlet's murder at a fencing match, poisoning the sword and the wine. At the fencing match, Claudius pours poison into Hamlet's cup, but Hamlet does not drink from it. During the match, Hamlet strikes Laertes twice, and Gertrude drinks to Hamlet's health, unknowingly drinking the poisoned wine. As she dies, Laertes reveals to Hamlet that both of them have also been poisoned by the foil in Hamlet's hands. Laertes reveals the plot to everyone, proclaiming that the king is to blame. Enraged, Hamlet kills Claudius, stabbing him and forcing him to drink the poisoned wine. In the resolution, after everyone dies, young Fortinbras returns from Poland. Horatio tells him what has happened, and Fortinbras claims that Hamlet deserves a military funeral.
Okay, so now as a really shorter summary of the plot. Here are the most important parts of the story, which starts in the introduction with the discussion about the appearance of the ghost of the dead king. Then in the rising action, Prince Hamlet goes to see this ghost, and he actually was his father, and he tells him the truth, that his brother murdered him, and Hamlet must avenge his father's death. And in the meantime, Fortinbras here seeks to avenge the death of his father, as the dead king is told to, well, he actually murdered Fortinbras' father. In the racing action, Ophelia tells her brother about Hamlet and their kind of distressing encounter. And here, her brother tells Polonius about that, and he tells the king and the queen that Hamlet is probably mad. Here, in fact, Hamlet wanted everyone to think that he was mad. But we're going to talk about that later. And also here, Hamlet tells Ophelia that he never loved her. In another rising action, Hamlet sets up a play with Claudius, and he showed him in a theatrical form how Claudius murdered his father. And here in the climax, well, in the meantime, here is told everyone that Ophelia has committed suicide. Hamlet wants to speak with his mother, and well, here it happened, the situation where he heard Polonius behind the tapestry, so he accidentally killed Polonius instead of Claudius. So Claudius here, he was kind of paranoid and sends Hamlet to England with the death warrant. Then in the following action, Claudius and Laertes plot Hamlet's murder, and and Gertrude, instead of Hamlet, is the one who drinks the poison wine. And here is where reveals all the plot, how they wanted to kill Hamlet. And after that, Hamlet kills Claudius. And as a resolution, Fortinbras returns to Poland and finally converts into the new king. And then he claims that Hamlet deserves a military funeral. So now in the main characters, there is just one main character who is the Prince Hamlet, because all the story share most of his inner thoughts. But also we have the other characters who are secondary, and here we have Gertrude, who was the Queen of Denmark and Hamlet's mother. The Ghost, also, who was Hamlet's father. Claudius, who then converted the King of Denmark, and who was Hamlet's uncle. Polonius, who was the Lord Chamberlain of Claudius' court, and Laertes and Ophelia, who were siblings, and also Laertes was the son of Polonius, and Ophelia was the daughter of Polonius. And Horatio, who was the close friend of Hamlet. In the characters, we have Fortinbras. Well, these are other secondary characters who didn't have a lot of participation. So we have Fortinbras, the Prince of Norway, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who were former friends of Hamlet, Osric, who was the foolish courtier, Voltimand and Cornelius, who were courtiers of Claudius, Marcellus and Bernardo, who were officers who saw the ghost, Francisco, who was soldier and a wordsman, and Reynaldo, who was Polonius' servant.
Now speaking about the setting, the play is set in Elsinore, which is a real place located between Denmark and Sweden. The whole place is set in that castle and is where all the action takes place. Next slide, please. Okay, historical context. Hamlet was written in the 17th century around 1600 and 1601. By this time, as my classmate said, the Renaissance movement had gained relevance. Well, this movement created a new interest in human experience. William Shakespeare's works are influenced by plenty of aspects of this period. For example, Hamlet. Most of his characters are associated with Renaissance ideals. Hamlet is not an exception. Shakespeare focused on creating human characters with psychological complexity. Hamlet is a very complex character at a psychological level. And also, the Renaissance cultural creators try to question humankind's relationship to God, which it is really relevant in Hamlet, for example, because he is constantly questioning his religion, his relationship to God, among other things. Next one, please. Okay. First of all, we need to understand that saying that theater was not very popular, it is an understatement. Theater was illegal before the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. Being more specific, on September 6 of 1642, by an act of Parliament and the Puritans, theaters remained illegal until she started to reign. I think they were like 20 years or 30 years where theater was illegal. However, this situation changed as soon as she became a queen. Queen Elizabeth was a great supporter of art, but mostly of the performing arts. She used theater as a way of promoting herself and her house. It was very difficult to be a queen, so she decided to use theater as a means to people could identify and support her in different ways. For this reason, she actively sponsored artists and playwrights. William Shakespeare was among the artists that were sponsored by the Queen herself.
Well, when it comes to the narrators, we are able to identify two types in this book. Of course, it is important to mention that this is not a 100% certain information, because it's really hard to identify a narrator in this book. Well, when reading, we assume that the narrator is a first person, represented by Hamlet, of course, and as he is involved in the story, he talks about himself, what happens to him, and how he feels. So, in that point of view, it should be a first person, as the way he expressed in the monologues and dialogues. But there is another point of view in which there is an omniscient narrator, someone who is outside of the story, but he knows everything that's going on. So there is a perception, but it's not completely certain. And there is a third theory, which goes according to the book and the transition of it, because at the end, there is a situation in which before Hamlet's death, he calls his best friend and he tells him to tell his story. So following that perception, it can be assumed that there is an omniscient person, because there is not 100% sure that it is, in this case, what was the name? Horatio, who is telling the story. But when reading, we tend to assume that it's the first person. So move to the...
Okay. In this play, there are plenty of symbolisms. For example, the skull. So, first of all, you need to know that the skull, it is not present on the play. It is only used for visual representation on movies or live performances. The skull here represents death and also makes Hamlet think about his own destiny and his own life after his death. It implies how man can turn to dust after he dies. And also, it reminds Hamlet that even Caesar, I think that's how you pronounce it, which was an imperator, I don't know how you pronounce it, also died. Here is where, in most plays, actors perform the to be or not to be speech, as Hamlet questioned his own mortality. Also, we have the ghost, which is a spiritual consequence of death, and also represented a conflict, as during this time it was believed that the dead could not return. So this is a conflict for Hamlet, because he used to think that if dead people could not return, his father may be something that he imagined at the end. Also, the appearance of the ghost represents the thought times that are coming ahead. Flowers in this play represent how Ophelia starts to losing her mind. They use flowers to represent her mental health and how this slowly starts to crumble. And poison, it is used to express betrayal, deception, and treachery. Also, this symbol is significant and exposes Claudius as the evil character in the play. Next.
So, in the themes, sorry, the most remarkable topic of the story is the constant and deep reflection that Hamlet makes about the human being and how life is. And regarding this, there are plenty of other themes that appear during the story. And here we have some of them. And the first one is loyalty versus disloyalty. And here Hamlet judges his mother by her disloyalty to his father, because she married Claudius after just 2 months of widowhood, and this has a traumatic effect and experience on Hamlet. And he even complains that a beast would have mourned longer. And this also connects with the second theme, which is fidelity and betrayal, because he thinks that everyone has betrayed his father, and because no one seems to care about his death. In the image of women and femininity, in the first years of the 17th century, women were forbidden even from appearing on stage. So Hamlet expresses like an obsession with women in his life. But at the same time, he expresses contempt and like ridicule and for their actions. And he rails against Gertrude and Ophelia, and he accuses women of being sly seductresses or pretenders and lustful schemes. And this portrays misogynist thinking that has to do with the, as I said before, with the years that where was the story placed. But he doesn't see that they are in a, he doesn't really think of how they are living in that moment, because he doesn't see that women are in an environment forced to make difficult or even lethal actions just to survive in a dangerous world, which was built only for men. So in the role of theater into the theater, this refers when Hamlet sets up the play and wanted to Claudius to see how he knew the truth. We must remember that at that time Hamlet just did it just to have like a right to tell the truth to everyone, like to behave in the certain manner that if he was completely sane, he wouldn't be able to show everyone the truth, or that was at least that is what he thought. And lastly, in appearance versus reality, Hamlet acts as he was mad, as it said before, and he acts very, very strange, which creates the illusion that he's insane. And he wanted others to believe that he's mad in order to conceal these true feelings and his intentions. And as we saw in the plot, his real intentions was to avenge his father's death by killing Claudius. And during this plan, he ends up killing 3 innocent people who were Polonius, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern. And at the end, Hamlet becomes really cruel and a cold-hearted person who didn't really care for no one, for anyone. Sorry.
Okay, in Hamlet, there are plenty of literary devices, but we selected some of them to explain them to you. First, we have repetition, and here we have two examples of Hamlet monologue. And it says, "I humbly thank you, well, well, well." And in the other one, it repeats the words three times. Well, as we know, repetition, it is defined as the repeating of words for emphasis. Is that what Hamlet was doing? And here, then we have metaphors, which is a comparison between two things, and it doesn't use like or as. So um, here is an extract of the monologue of Hamlet, which says, "Whether this nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of strangest fortune, or to take arms against of sea of troubles, and by opposing anthem." Well, in this quote, if we go deeper, we understand how Hamlet compares his travel to a sea. This tells us that Hamlet sees his travels as vast and seemingly endless. So there is the metaphor. Can we move to the other? Okay. Then we move to similes. And here we have a Claudius quotation. It says, "His beard was as white as snow." In this quotation, Claudius is talking to himself about Hamlet's father, who he murdered, and he compared the beard of the Hamlet's father to snow because of its white color. There is a comparison. Then we have anaphora, um, another, well, repeating the same words at the beginning of each phrase. Example in this case of Polonius speak. The word doubt is repeated in each phrase, of course, except in the last one. The point is to repeat the things to doubt to build correlation, and then emphasize in the last line that his love cannot be doubted. And last but not least, we have alliteration. I'm going to read it. "What we have two nights seen, to wash, in white as snow, where though," and I can see the last line, "serves mercy." Well, the repetition of the same sound or letter in words. In this example, there is the use of the consonant sounds in quick transition in line, of the consonant sound, the W, o sea, the consonant W.
Finally, we have some interesting facts related to the play. For example, Elsner, which you can see in the first picture, is a real place. However, the castle referred to as North Castle in the place it is not real. The castle located on that place it is called Kronborg. Another interesting fact is that Hamlet has been translated into Klingon, which is the fictional language from the television series Star Trek, and the translator won an award by doing this. And finally, but not least, we have Sarah Siddons, which was the first woman ever portraying Hamlet. She did it at least 9 times over a 30-year span from 1775 to 1805. So that was our presentation. Thank you for your attention. And that's it. Are any questions? Something?
Well, I think there are no questions, Professor.
Yes, I thought that sometimes you have to let information sink a little bit in, and then usually the audience may have questions or comments, and I was waiting for that to appear, right? But it seems to not be any comments or questions. That's a interesting, rewarding, concerning, and scary, right? And depending on the way we want to look at it, we may think that everything was very clear. The audience still reflecting on the information provided, or that more time to process, right? Um, so I have a question for each one of you. Mariana, you there?
Yes.
Okay, there's one hand raised. Uh,
Yes, it was mine, but it was not a question. It was more a comment about the play. Like,
Go
I
ahead.
feel that it was very interesting, the fact that how Shakespeare could describe and create these characters with different personalities and with these internal conflicts. So that was like a comment.
Yes. Yes, it was really interesting. Because he created like a different, totally different personality for every character.
So Mariana, this play, right, is divided in several times. There are several soliloquies, and but my question is quite simple. Which is for you the most memorable scene, and what is included in this scene that makes it memorable for you?
Um, for me, the most memorable scene, well, that I didn't mention, but it was when Claudius was praying, and he was in his knees, on his knees, de rodillas, and Hamlet was behind him, and he wanted to kill Claudius at that time, and he had like a possibility, but he didn't want to kill him because he thought that if he was praying, then he would go to heaven, and he didn't want that. And that, I think that was kind of really memorable to like to describe the Hamlet character, and how he thinks. Yeah, and that was like really important, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, at any moment, feel free to add anything that was left unsaid or that you suddenly remembered. All right. Cristobal, are you there?
Yes, here I am.
So, Cristobal, my question for you is also very personal. Um, which character caught your attention from the play, and why?
Mm, let me think. Well, the one that I paid attention was Ophelia, the beloved one, the love of Hamlet, because she got mad because of Hamlet's attitude, and she at some point she died, But there is a situation that caught my attention. That was at some point she started to give flowers to different people, and these flowers mean different things. And like at this point, she was trying to announce her death, but no one was able to notice. And this is related to I felt attracted to that because those flowers that she selected represent something like remembering, love, and I don't remember the other one, but are connected to this character. And the way she got mad, she was like so in love, and because of Hamlet's issues that were not certainly proof that he was insane, or like the place tried to make him appear. But that one, the Ophelia, that's the one for me.
Alrighty, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Cristobal. And the same comment for you. If you feel that there was something that you did not comment now, feel free to, at any moment, jump into the conversation, right?
Okay.
All righty. And Grace, are you there?
Yes.
All right, Grace. Let me make a short comment before the question. The concept of tragic irony is a concept that is applied to tragedies in which there's some important fact or catastrophe or crisis, right, that the audience knows, but the characters are completely ignorant or are completely unaware of these. Right, the tragic irony has that is that element present in a play in which the characters are not familiar or don't know what's going to happen to them, but the audience knows exactly what's coming. So that's why it's called tragic irony. Is there tragic irony present in this play? Yes, no, and why do you think?
Well, I think it is present on display, as we all know what is going to happen. I think we all know that Hamlet was going to die at some point. However, during the play, he wasn't sure about that. He was really struggling with inner conflicts. So he knew that he wanted to get revenge, but he didn't know that he was going to die in the process. So I think that's kind of the irony that you mentioned before, and it is present on the play, as we all know what is going to be his fate, but him.
Right, and what's your perception about Hamlet? Is that a character that you would admire, or it has too many? He has too many flaws and is too many imperfections.
Well, I wouldn't say admire, but I kind of understand him. He is a young man who it is he's really interested in studying and that kind of stuff, and suddenly he gets thrown on this revenge that he didn't want. He didn't want to kill his uncle. That's why he decided to look for proof before killing him, or decided that he was going to kill him. So it is a complex character that I feel a little bit sad for him, for his destiny, and I think that Hamlet will want to keep studying, and he enjoyed that. But he was thrown in this situation where he had to revenge his father, and it was really it was a topic that used to happen a lot in the past, revenge and all that kind of stuff. So I feel sorry for him. I do not admire him, but I understand his actions sometimes.
All right, all right. Thank you for your answer. And I'm going to turn to Mariana. Mariana, what would you have done in Hamlet's place? How do you feel about revenge? Are you a revengeful person, Mariana?
Um, I kind of also understand Hamlet because he as he shared a lot of his inner thoughts, and as Grace said, he wanted to have proof of what was happening, and he didn't really want to kill anybody. But at the end, he converts into like a really cold-hearted person, as I said before. And well, I think I don't know what I would have done in that situation, because I think no one knows until we are in that moment. But now I think that maybe I wouldn't be able to do all what he did, but I relate with him in how he thinks and how he reflects in every moment. I think in that part I would have done the same.
Right. Right. It's difficult to put on someone else's shoes and reflect on the multiple possibilities if you have not been and lived, right, or experienced at least the same kind of situation. So I totally understand. Sorry. For some people, though, it's easy to understand somebody else's emotional process. But understanding and imagining what you would have done in a similar situation are probably not exactly the same, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Cristobal, one last question for you.
Okay.
What is one particular thing that you would like the audience, your classmates, to keep in mind, to remember from your presentation or specifically from the play? What's one thing that you consider to be very relevant, so you want your classmates to remember this specific concept or idea from the play?
I think something really important is to reason, to think before acting, as Hamlet had to do it, and also something about the play that is something that we learn from your friend Alejandro. That is that William Shakespeare's books were designed to be performed more than to be read, because the way they are written is more for a theatrical view. It's like we to get more connected to the situation, the books, and all that is going on, is better to see a performance. They were written to be performed on the Globe. That was the theater at that time. That's like a curious fact, I think.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Just like poetry is meant to be read aloud in order to appreciate the musicality and certain elements that are part of rhythm and intonation and several other elements that can only be appreciated if you read the poem aloud or the sonnet aloud. Same thing with plays. You were saying, I completely agree that It's not the same if you read the play, because there are certain things that are missed, or specifically if you think certain instructions given to actors that probably are going to take the reader away from the concentration. So completely agree with you. So that would be sort of a suggestion for your classmates. Watch, right, the play.
Yes.
Right. So with Cristobal's suggestion for everyone, watch the play, watch Hamlet, watch Othello, and there's one more, watch King Lear. Watch these three plays that I'm sure you can find at least one version in YouTube, okay? Watch Hamlet, Othello, and King Lear. Not specific in that order, but watch the play so you can have an appreciation about theater, and because it's a different language, it's a different way to perform arts that is not the same as if you are reading a text, right, a book, or if you are listening to a poem. So with this suggestion given by Cristobal, if there are no more questions, this was a very, very isolated conversation in a bubble. I mean, I felt like probably more people could have participated. I understand that there's a report on King Lear's play next half. I may be wrong, I may be right. Are we having a report on King Lear after the break? Can't get used to these earphones.
Professor?
Yes, ma'am.
We sent you the presentation.
Okay, so what do you want me to do with it?
It's a video. It's a video of our presentation because Barbara usually has some problems with the connection.
Okay, so what am I supposed to do with the video? Do you want me to share it?
I don't know if you want.
I don't know. It's your presentation. Whatever you tell me, I can help you with that. But since this is the first time that a group is asking me to share the presentation, that's why I want to confirm that. Is that the way we are going to proceed after the break? After the break, I share the video.
I don't know if there is another group who wants to present.
There were only 3 groups that chose a Shakespearean play. One of them was Othello last session, Hamlet today, and the last one is King Lear. And then we are done with Shakespearean plays because there are no more presentations on Shakespeare, right? On Shakespeare's plays. So this is going to be the last one. So okay, so I guess that's that. If that's what you're saying, after the break, I'm going to play the video you sent me. Yes, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and then after the presentation, we can have this round of questions, and we're going to be closing. I would say the contents for the first assessment week, right? The Shakespearean plays are the last thing to talk about before the assessment week. So let's have a 10-minute break. It's, I guess, going to be noon. It's like 11:55, so 12:05, 12:07. We meet again for the last of Shakespeare's plays that we're going to cover in this course. King Lear. Who would have imagined King Lear? I really like King Lear. Well, I really like Hamlet and King Lear. Othello is also, but you have favorites. And King Lear is one that I talked about when I was in college, a long time ago. Guys, enjoy your break. I'll see you, for those of you coming back, I'll see you in 10 more minutes. All right?
Okay, Professor.